Hi everybody, I'm Christophe Paget and this is the time for another episode of Space News, starting with this total solar eclipse. Now, despite the fact that an eclipse is a beautiful sight to watch, it is also a rare event. Indeed, we get about one solar eclipse every 18 months, but none of them get the moon totally covering the sun, at least from land, but indeed get total eclipse from different places, such as the poles or somewhere in the middle of the ocean usually. Now, these total eclipses happening on land are in fact happening every 375 years on average. So no one on Earth today will see another like that again. Unfortunately, many of you have not even noticed that eclipse. Now, this is because its location was focused around an area covering the northwest of Mexico all the way up to the southeast of Canada, as you could see on your screen. Now, as it is a rare occasion, many people have traveled to many of these places to witness such a rare event, and even many more have witnessed this event from 30,000 feet in the air on board of many of the scheduled but also unscheduled flights. Now, what you see is the unexpected concentration of flights along the eclipse path. One pilot asked the passengers who were on his flight for the eclipse, and the majority of them raised their hands. So quite a remarkable idea, but I'm sure you have seen it on the television as it was mediatized everywhere. Now, scientists, however, were more interested in the corona emitted by the sun. It is difficult to watch the sun with telescopes directly pointing at the sun or its light. However, with such solar eclipse, they can capture information previously difficult to, as seen on the picture. Moving on to the UK, where the European continent is trying to get more rocket choices. In the UK alone, supported by the UK government and the UK Space Agency, they have now 3 main rocket launch sites. One in Cornwall for horizontal launches and 2 vertical launches sites in Scotland. Saxford in the Shetland Islands and Sutherland spaceport in the Highlands. Now, I have covered in the past videos the Cornwall and Shetland sites, but did not mention much on Sutherland spaceport because the site was undeveloped until now. Orbex, a British rocket company based in the Highlands with branches in Denmark and Germany, is starting the preparation work to build its launch site at Sutherland spaceport. Now, Scotland may be beautiful, but comes with lots of natural obstacles such as rivers and high winds. So Orbex completed a weather survey of the area and is now building bridges to ease infrastructure for constructions and operations. Now, the construction will take considerable amount of effort because roads there can be narrow and long, especially the A9, as you can see on the footage. Also, kudos to Orbex to invest in this enterprise, and more to come as the site progresses. Elon Musk has met with his workforce at Boca Chica to provide an update on the Starship program. Now, interesting sets of information were given. In summary, the Starship will gradually grow in power and size. Starship Booster version 2, for example, will have 15% more thrust, whilst version 3 will have 40%. As for the Starship itself, its version 2 will have 30% more thrust, and its version 3 116% more. Now, this is thanks to a 20% thrust increase on the Raptor 3 version, as well as further Starship weight improvement. The Starship version 2 will also increase in height by 3 meters, whilst that of version 3 will be 29 meters taller. Elon described how SpaceX intends to populate Mars and also pointed out that he will build a base on the Moon too. This picture described the process for sending colonies, so rather complex perhaps, but when you look at it, it's actually relatively simple. The presentation then continued with words on ramping up the production, and all these massive star factories that we have seen at Starbase are in fact already busy building Starship parts, as you can see on your screen right now. Now finally, Elon showed a render of how SpaceX intends to capture the booster and might happen as early as integrated flight test number 5. But I imagine this is another Elon time, I guess. But it is quite impressive to see basically the behavior. They expect the behavior of the booster to be the same as of perhaps their Falcon 9 booster as well. And Elon also mentioned that it will take much longer time to deal with the capture of the Starship itself. A couple of weeks ago, the MS-25 crew commanded by the cosmonaut Oleg Novitsky arrived at the ISS with the NASA astronaut Tracy Tyson and the tourist from Belarus, Marina Vasilevskaya. Now it was time to return Oleg and Marina back on Earth, taking them with the NASA astronaut Laura O'Hara, leaving behind the MS-25 Soyuz and taking with them the MS-24 Soyuz vehicle. Now the return to the steppes of Kazakhstan happened safely. McDonnell Douglas developed the Delta I rocket in the 1960s, launching iconic satellites such as ECO-1, the world's first communication satellite, then Tyros, the first full-scale weather satellite, and in 1989 the Delta II was born with more power or capabilities for 155 flights, including sending the Spirit and Opportunity rovers to Mars, before his replacement by the Delta III in 1998. Now, at that time, Boeing merged with McDonnell Douglas, and this Delta III was short-lived with only 3 flights on his belt, where the first 2 were actually a failure. The second stage was manufactured by MHI, Mitsubishi Heavy Industry, and was based on the Japanese H-2A second stage rocket. Now, more flights would have happened, but more parts were cannibalized by the Delta II and new Delta IV, which was finally born in 2002. Not long after that, Boeing and Lockheed Martin merged to form ULA to compete with the growing threat from SpaceX. Now, the Delta IV was serving the US Air Force and government payloads during that time, with one exception for Eutelsat W15, a geostationary satellite. Delta IV Heavy was born in 2004 to extend the capabilities of his Delta IV in the GEO and heavy LEO market, and flew 16 times over the past 20 years, with one partial launch failure on his first flight, with 2 satellites delivered at a lower orbit than planned. Now, one of the most famous payloads was the uncrewed Orion capsule in 2014 to support the Artemis program. The last Delta flight occurred on the 8th of April 2024, in line with the plan for ULA to replace all these rockets by the cheaper Vulcan Centaur rocket in several configurations with up to 6 solid boosters with different rocket lengths. So farewell to Delta and Delta IV, with a well-deserved rest for 60 years of service. April 5th, SpaceX launched a Falcon 9 from Florida with a batch of Starlink 4 is mission group 647. The booster landed on the drone ship for his 15th time. 2 days later, SpaceX launched another batch of Starlink satellites, including 6 direct-to-cell Starlinks from California for his mission group 81. The booster reflown for the 6th time and landed on the drone ship. The next day, SpaceX again is launching from Florida for his new rideshare mission Bandwagon 1 with 11 satellites for the South Korean DAPA and other customers destined for an inclination of 45 degrees. The booster reflown for the 14th time and landed back to site. On the 9th of April, the last ULA Delta IV Heavy launch took place in Florida for his NROL 70 mission. April 10th, SpaceX launched another Starlink batch for his mission group 648 from Florida. The booster flew for the 2nd time and landed on a drone ship. The next day saw 2 further launches, the first one from Roscosmos in Siberia, with the 4th test flight of his Angara A5 Block DM3. The last flight of the week was from SpaceX with his mission USSF 62 from California. The booster flew for his 3rd time and landed back at the launch site. So the summary of the year in rocket launches sees 69 successful launches out of 72 so far this year, with 6 more launches by a US launch company and 1 launch by a Russian launch company. Now, this is by far the largest number of launches ever done in a 4-month period. I leave you with this image from the moon, combining 2 photographs from the Apollo 15 lunar module pilot Jim Irwin from the Apollo Lunar Surface Experiment package site at the end of the 2nd Apollo 15 moonwalk on the 1st of August 1971. Our mission commander, David Scott, can be seen leaning to his right and putting down the Apollo lunar surface drill. It is easy to forget how difficult it is to land an unmanned lander to the moon, let alone humans. So many nations are working towards that goal of landing humans again and setting up a moon base too. So let me wish you a great week and see you at the next episode. Goodbye.